So welcome to 24/7 Football. A little bit of a different one today. Doing a little bit of a podcast while we can't physically do any videos really with everyone in the same room. So I've got Nick Pratt on with me, as you already all know, Nick, and we've got Lucas Flanagan as well. Are we okay, boys? Are we all right?
Good, thanks, mate.
All good, thanks, George.
So if you don't know, John Flanagan, non-league legend, this is his son, Lucas. So big shoes to fill here. If you don't know John Flanagan, you don't know football. So first of all, before we get into it, I'll start with Lucas. How are you actually finding isolation, Lucas, away from football?
It's a little bit weird, isn't it? It's a little bit weird. It's a struggle, especially without football, without having anything to watch. But there's worse things. That could be happening. It's not too bad. Still exercising, still getting out once a day. So it could be worse.
I hope it's just once a day as well.
Of course it is.
Nick, how are you finding isolation?
Do you know what? I think I'm one of the lucky ones, really, because I'm obviously doing a course at the moment, so it's keeping me really busy. They're still doing everything online, so like my days are like packed from start to finish with stuff that I need to know, learn, pieces I need to write. So I'm actually finding it really easy so far. So I have been fortunate in that sense. But, there's a lot of stuff out there, free stuff out there for people to do. You can learn a language. There's loads of free online courses to do. So if you are bored, take the opportunity now while you've got while you've got the chance to do something.
And watch them 24/7 as well. So just in terms of football, obviously we've seen today the EFL have said that they'll be playing their games behind closed doors. There's been a lot of talk during coronavirus about football. But is football actually, is it worth talking about? Is it worth all this pressure when in reality is the bigger things going on in life? I don't know who wants to go first on that one.
Go on, Nick.
It does need speaking about because it's people's livelihoods at the end of the day as well. The players are just normal human beings. The owners are just normal human beings. So it does need talking about. It's like people will talk about supermarkets. It's exactly the same. But it's more of a luxury. Obviously, we all enjoy the football, but it does need talking about. Yeah, but obviously at the moment there is obviously the pandemic going on, which is a massive issue. What needs to happen, in my opinion, is that the FA, the government, they need to support these clubs, because you keep hearing it from like different owners saying, oh, clubs are on the verge of going bust. They need to step in urgently if that's the case and obviously support them financially like they have done with other self-employed people, employed people in terms of the furlough scheme.
Yeah, Lucas, you obviously know a bit more about non-league like we do as well. In terms of support for lower league teams, do you think they're really going to be hit by this? If we play behind closed doors as well, they've got no fans. I mean, that's a huge revenue loss for them.
Yeah, well, for the Premier League clubs, playing behind closed doors isn't too much of an issue because the majority of their income comes from the broadcast deal, whereas lower league clubs, including some EFL clubs, really non-league clubs particularly, will be really hard hit by playing behind closed doors. So I agree with Nick. It does need talking about. There are a lot of people's lives, a lot of jobs, particularly at risk as well. So it does need talking about. But we're in really uncertain times, and I don't think anybody can come up with a resolution at the moment because we don't know what's going to be around the corner. We didn't know 4 weeks ago we were going to be in a lockdown. So it's a really difficult situation, just changing a lot very quickly.
Yeah, we'll move on to a little bit later on, obviously, Liverpool's title. Obviously, being from Manchester was probably quite happy about the prospect of Liverpool not picking up that first Premier League title. It just seems to me like we've seen what football is. I don't know if you agree. I just feel like football is very money orientated, and it's the people with the money who call the shots. I don't think the people at the top of football really care about, the people's whose livelihoods depend on it, the stewards, people like that. I don't think players' welfare is being taken into consideration as well. So if you were a player, for instance, Nick and Lucas, and you were being told, all right, so we're going to do a 3-week World Cup style campaign to finish the season, and then the Champions League lads, you've got to then go off and then you've got to do a World Cup style Champions League to finish the season. You're talking 6 weeks leaving your family during a pandemic. I mean, are the players being taken into consideration really, and their welfare and their families as well? don't know, Lucas, I don't know what you think about
Personally, no, I don't think that would be the right thing to do. In my opinion, like you say, the players' welfare is very important. You've got to think about the families and being away from them. It is a tough time. Players, I'm sure, and I know the news came out about Pep's unfortunately lost his mum. I'm sure other players will have been affected by it as well. So I don't think it would personally be the right thing to do when there are so many lives at risk.
Nick, is it just a case of money talks?
Been that way for a long time, mate, hasn't it? It's tough, at the moment with everything's going on. To echo a point that Lucas made before, in terms of nobody knows what's going on. No one knows what's going to happen in the next few weeks. We're on extended lockdown for another 3 weeks. I find it difficult for people to come out and say this should happen, this shouldn't happen, because we don't know at the end of that 3 weeks what is going to happen. They could turn around and say, we're still in the same situation, we're extending it for another 3 weeks. And then you're just putting dates back. And until we're out the other side of it, yes, I understand they have to have contingency plans in place. But until we're out the other side of this, it's going to be very, very difficult, I think, for them to stamp on it and go, that's what we're going to do.
Does this season for you have to be finished? Or would you scrap it? It's very hard, isn't it? Do you know what? I wouldn't want to be the one making a decision. It's such a hard decision to make.
It'd be horrible for that person to be in that situation to make the decision, but a Premier League season, 38 games, Football League season, 40 odd games, it should be 100% finished. But I think we have to take into consideration, this is like a freak of nature, no one ever expected this. So I just think, in terms of everything, the one word that I keep you coming back to is just be sensible, with it. Sit there. And if they have to make the decision to scrap the season, they have to make the decision to scrap the season. It's not, you're going to have people affected either way. You're going to have people who are going to say the season should definitely be finished, especially those clubs, Liverpool, there's the teams in the Championship that can get into the Premier League, Leeds, Fulham. They're going to turn around and say they want the season finished. Of course they want it finished, and that's only right. But at the same time, I think you just have to come back and be sensible about the whole thing. It's not like we're in a situation that could be affected. Yeah, it could be, it's just come out of the blue, basically. And I just think you do have to sit there and be sensible about the way you go about things.
Yeah, Nick talks about being sensible, Lucas. So for instance, this carries on for months. Would you carry on this season when it's safe to do so? Or if we get to a point where it's been a year since, what happens? We'll talk about players' contracts after, but when we get on to the season, would you start afresh, or would you finish this season? What do you think needs to be done?
Personally, for me, I think the season has to be finished. I think just so there's clarity and everything, I think it needs to be finished. Like you say about Liverpool, we from Manchester might prefer it if Liverpool didn't win the title, but I think at the end of the day it was going to happen anyway. I think they deserved it. I know if we were in their shoes, if Michael was in their shoes, I'd want us to finish the season. For relegation as well, promotion from all the leagues, I think the right thing to do is to finish the season. But the other thing to consider is further down the pyramid, going back to the non-league, which we touched on earlier. Non-league seasons in some divisions have been scrapped, some haven't. What happens with promotion and relegation then? I don't know. I think, like you said before, George, I wouldn't want to be the one making the decision.
No, I think we saw Vauxhall FC. I think I mentioned it on another video. They were mathematically promoted. They got promotion, and now they're not being promoted. I think, like Nick said, there's winners and losers and everything. I think Blythe Spartans and Bradford Park Avenue are going to be they're buzzing, aren't they? They're absolutely over the moon. But look at Barrow, South Shield. How much have they spent? And now they've played so well, they deserve to be where they are. I think Barrow would have gone up. I think South Shields would have gone up, but now they're not going to go up. And we'll talk about it a little bit later on. Nick, you said this could actually be a big change for Reform in terms of transfer budgets, salary caps. But these teams have gambled a lot to try and go up, Lucas, and they're not going to get promotion. And where do you draw the line?
Look at South Shields. I think one of South Shields' arguments from a legal point of view is the fact that they are losing out on a lot of money for what would have been next season. So if they get promoted to the National League North, they get bigger gates. They're earning more money. So it's a really complex situation, really complex situation. I don't think any of us can come up with a resolution, but there's so much to think about for the authorities.
I think in terms of relegation as well, that's where it gets even trickier, doesn't it? Because you've got teams that have got games in hand, European places as well. Nick, they've got to finish it surely. I mean, Sheffield United could and should be where they are. They've got a game in hand over Man United to get that 5th place. Should Man City not get European football next season, it's just no one could have foreseen this coming. It's going to get messy, isn't it?
Of course it is. It's gonna get messy. Like I said, it's gonna either way. Whatever happens, it's gonna affect teams one way or another. And it's one of those things. I can sit here as a United fan, and people have said to me, do you want the season finished because Liverpool are gonna win the league? And I'm like, well, no, because that could also affect me. In terms of being a United fan, because we could end up we could still get Champions League football next season. And if the season gets null and void, we're in the Europa League again next season. And it's situations like that right the way through the pyramid, that you can go on about, we touched on non-league, how is it fair that non-league football gets scrapped? And it should be the same all the way through, I think, and they've kind of set themselves a precedent by scrapping non-league football. It's like, whoa, was that not too soon, too quick? There was still months to go. And why should non-league be scrapped? And why should the rest of it be allowed to carry on? I'm not saying for 1 minute that I believe it should be completely scrapped, but they should have waited. I think they pushed the button too soon on that. They could have carried on for another couple of weeks, 3 weeks forwards, and seen.
So why do you think they did?
Who knows? Who knows? You'd have to speak to someone from the FA and from the council. The FA council to ask that question. So it's one of those things where it's just not. It's not fair. You spoke about Vauxhall Motors there. It's like, they've gone up. They've basically weeks ago gone up. They should be given the opportunity to go up to the next league, but now they're going to stay in the county south next season. And like Lucas said about other clubs, they're going to miss out next season on bigger money, potentially more people through the gate, bigger sponsorship. And all right, this is not the FA's fault completely, because it's just come out of the blue. This, no one expected it to happen. But as I say, there should really have been some thinking time and going, right, we're not going to do anything for a few weeks. Let's just see how it plays out.
Yeah, there's an interesting case. I don't know if you know Jersey's new team at Channel Island. They couldn't become an international team, so they set up a club team, and they pumped a lot of money into it. I think this season they won 27 games out of 27. They were flying. They got promoted, and the season's been scrapped. But I was speaking to someone from Jersey, and they said that they had to get promoted this season, or at least next season. Otherwise, they'll go bust because they put that much money into it. They've got players on flying wages, and it all comes down to: do you think this is a big time for reform in the non-league, Lucas, and in the football in general, in terms of salary caps, in terms of clubs not spending outside their means? Because a lot of them have gambled and it's come up short.
Well, yeah, there is. You could look at it like that, I guess. I think very much like has been looked at in the Football League with owners and fit and proper tests. I think with non-league, how can you oversee that? How can you prevent owners from coming in and pumping a load of money in? I don't know how you would do it personally. I think it's too complicated. But I think there is a responsibility for owners not to, like in the case of Jersey, come in and pump in a load of money when maybe they can't sustain it for so many seasons. If they can only sustain it for 2 seasons and then go bust, is it responsible? For me, I don't think so. So I think there is a responsibility for the owners, definitely.
Nick, do you think it's a chance for reform?
Massive opportunity. You're looking at the saying about clubs potentially going bust and stuff like that. As I said before, And I'll say again, the FA do need to step in, and the government needs to step in to ensure that isn't the case. But this is a massive opportunity for football clubs who've got, especially those at the Premier League, Championship, who have got incredible academies. They spend fortunes on academies. How often do you see academy players getting opportunities in the first team? You don't. This could be the change and the catalyst for change for clubs to do that, to go, do you know what, rather than going and spending 80, 90, 100 million pound on a footballer in the summer, we've got a good enough kid in our academy who's 17, 18 years of age, and people are raving over it. It's time for him to get his opportunity. You've seen it happen a little bit this season with Chelsea. They've kind of gone to their academy and gone, okay, we had a transfer ban, so we need a few players, and they've given players the opportunity. Yes, all right, Mason Mount went out on loan last season, and he's come back, and he's been great for them this season. United, you've got Phil Foden at City, but City have got an incredible infrastructure there with the academy. Go and use it. They've got players in that academy that are good enough, rather than going out and spending hundreds of millions of pounds on a footballer every summer.
Can I just say something with that, though, Nick? It's easy to say for maybe the lower clubs, it might be a bit easier for them to get some younger players through, but for the clubs at the top of the Premier League, managers are under so much pressure nowadays to get results. Football is so results driven that if they do give the opportunity to some academy lads and then they don't get the results, their job is on the line. So there's so much pressure on the managers for them to do that. I think they do need assurances from the club that if they do put younger players in, that the job's not going to be so at risk, should we say.
I completely agree with that. But again, that could be another catalyst for change. The managers don't get time at all. I don't know what the average time span of a manager is nowadays, but, it can't be long at all. Surely you should get, it's going to take you, for me, a couple of years to stamp your authority on a club, because you're going to inherit a squad from another manager. You're going to want to change that squad. You're going to want to put your own ideas across. So maybe, again, that's another opportunity for clubs to go, do you know what? No, we're giving this manager a 3-year contract, and he's going to run, we're going to honour that 3 years, rather than go in after 6 months, let's hit the panic button because we're near the bottom of the league, or something like that, or we're not doing as well as we want to do. I completely agree with your point, but again, I think it could be another catalyst for change.
Are we going to see big transfer fees for the next few years? Clubs are hemorrhaging money, and all their revenue streams have stopped, really, apart from maybe from a media point of view, if they're getting YouTube money and little bits like that. But other than that, where are clubs getting the money from? So you've got big clubs that, like Liverpool, who are not furloughing staff anymore. They're going to have to pay all their staff wages, as are City, as are United, as are all clubs across the country. So are we going to see big transfer fees anymore? And will that have a positive or negative impact on football? I mean, Man City, for all their wealth, they've still got to comply with FFP, and we've got no revenue streams coming in at the moment. So how do you think that's going to affect football, Lucas?
I think it will depend on a lot on the authorities. I think, like you just touched on, financial fair play. I think it will depend on what UEFA come out and say. Will there be any relaxations of rules, which I think in this situation, I think there probably does need to be, because, like you say, revenue streams, income streams into club have just been slashed completely. So I think a bit like Nick was saying before, in terms of people being sensible, a bit of common sense does need to prevail. And I think rules like financial fair play probably do need to be looked at across the next year or so. But we don't know how quickly football is going to resume. That will probably depend and have an impact on income streams for clubs, and whether clubs will be able to pay bigger fees going forward, should we say. It just depends when we all get back going, I guess.
Is this, you heard it a lot, didn't you, Nick? When you talk about broadcast deals and stuff like that, the bubble will burst eventually. Has coronavirus burst the bubble of professional football?
I don't think it's completely burst the bubble. I still think you'll see, a lot of money pumped into the game. It's this. Everyone wants to be involved with football, especially the Premier League, don't they? I just think though that that it's a chance for clubs now just to turn around and say, right, we are going to change how we do things. The leagues, we are going to change how we do things. You touch on football clubs been affected financially, but we've got a European tour. You know, we should have had the Euros this summer. It's been put back to next summer.
We would have won. We would have won the Euros. So just put that out there.
It's coming home. So, you know, but obviously that's going to be affected in terms of finances as well. You know, and that could be a knock on for next season. You know, people are saying we've got to finish this season and then obviously we've got to play next season. Well, you know, you're asking a lot on the players there. You know, I know this is going a bit off topic, but you are asking a lot on the players to have like a short summer break here now, you know, 4 or 5 weeks, whatever it may be. Kind of, you know, are they going to have a pre-season then go straight into a Euros? So it's going to take its toll. And obviously you've got another season and then the World Cup after it. But
in the winter as well. So where's the break coming?
That's it. It's very tough, but they're going to get affected financially as well. So it is going to have a massive kind of knock-on effect throughout. But I just think that everyone kind of has to help each other. You know, there's always a cry, especially like non-league. We've all worked in non-league football. You know, there's a cry every weekend when your team's away. You know, if you can't get to the game and it's not on television, go and support your non-league club. You know, so it's kind of, it could be a thing that like where everyone goes and helps each other. You know, fans of one club will go and watch a non-league club or a few non-league clubs and just put some money through the doors there because they're going to need it. You know, and vice versa. When there's games that aren't full in the top flight in the championship on a Tuesday night, you know, non-league fans, we'll go and help you, help us, we'll help you, kind of thing. So this could just be a thing where the whole of football kind of does change, but changes for the better.
I think we can all say, all three of us, non-league football's ace. It is class.
Brilliant.
You know, we've got a non-league legend, his son, in the chat. You know, so
I'm being referred to now.
yeah, that's it. That's what your little tag's gonna be at the bottom of the video. John Flanagan's son.
I'll get some views. That'll get you some views.
I know it will. So it could be an opportunity for non-league football because if, for instance, we don't know, again, we're just speculating, but if they say, all right, we can have events now under 300 people, a lot of non-league football clubs get less than 300 on a match day. Could it be an opportunity for non-league at the end of this where people are going supporting the local?
I don't know, because I think if Premier League football games weren't going on, I think there would be a case for more people to go and support the local non-league club. 300, I know it's only just a bit of a guess figure, but 300 isn't in reality too much. Some clubs might get under 300, but a lot of clubs do get over that. And I don't think you would be able personally to be able to open it up for the public, because I think there would be a risk that all of a sudden loads of Premier League fans will come down and support the non-league club.
Yeah. So in terms of, you know what, this podcast is, there's no flow to it. We'll go back to the Premier League. So Liverpool, top of the Premier League, they've absolutely, they've ran away with it, haven't they? Can we really say that they're not going to be Premier League champions one way or another?
Well, you can't. You probably say it's 99.
I wish we could. We
can't. Don't we all?
Yeah. The only thing I say about it is, let's say that the season is finished now. They're not mathematically champions, and that sounds ludicrous, like they're so far ahead, but they're not mathematically champions. Obviously, we're not Liverpool fans, but I'd love to know if from a Liverpool fan, if they would like the title to be given to them still, even though they've not won it, because there's always going to be that thing.
I'm going to be, yeah.
But do you want to be known as the champions that weren't champions?
Oh, I think they still would.
I mean,
think they still would.
I think everyone knows that Liverpool were going to win it. I know, as much as we don't want it to happen, I think we all know that Liverpool probably were going to win it. So
we've been thrown a bone, really, haven't we?
I know. I personally, one way or another, whether it's finished or not, I think they should be given the title. I think that. But again, like you say, Nick, would Liverpool fans want to be known by that tag? It's a question for them to answer, isn't it?
Of course it is. I mean, don't be wrong. Like, I think they should be. They should get it anyway. I totally agree with that. Like, they've been superb all season, and that there's no way that they were going to get caught. Now, it was done a long time ago for me. But
we could have caught them, but
what planet are you on? Yeah, it's just one of those things, because that's what they'll be for. It'll be forever known as if I'd prefer, that's why I say I'd prefer them to obviously just mathematically actually do it, and get over the line and have that C next to them as champions and do it properly, and then it kind of you kind of brush it under the carpet. Then it's they were proven champions, and you're not going to have this come back at them for many years to come.
They it's I do feel a bit sorry for them because the best bit about winning a title is obviously watching it. Lucas shaking his head.
I don't.
Watching your team lift the title. Vinny lifting the title above his head, and then we have a parade in the city centre after it, and they're not going to get that. And
couldn't have happened any better, really, could it, George?
No,
couldn't have happened any better.
It's going to be so subdued, isn't it? And I do feel for them in that respect, but on the other hand, I'm buzzing.
No, it's horrible. It must be horrible for the players as well, though. Because if football does carry on, and they do get over the line and they win it, and they win it in front of an empty stadium. They've worked so hard all season to do what they've done, and now it's like, we've won the league, lads, and they look around and there's no one there. It's a subdued feeling for everyone, really.
All the pubs are shut after it as well. They can't go out and celebrate.
And they'll just have to have a big party when it's all over, won't they? And
socially distanced, of course.
Well, once it's all finished and we're allowed out of lockdown, out of social distancing is eased.
God, I can't wait for that. That is going to be brilliant when that happens. So in terms of football, do you want to see it behind closed doors? I mean, there's two ways to look at it, isn't it? Obviously, we're not going to be able to go to football, which is what we all love to do. But then I suppose it'll make isolation that bit better if you can watch football on TV. But I don't know how they're going to manage it, because are they going to have to test every single player, every single steward, every single person who operates a stadium? There's bound to be people in the stadium when the footballers are there. So how do they manage that, Nick?
I think you just hit the nail on the head, man. I think they have to just test everyone, don't they? Whether there's both teams, the coaching staff, subs, stewards, are they going to let press in? They're going to have cameramen there if they're going to put it on TV. They're just going to have to test everyone. It's the only way. But as for your first point, do we want to see it behind closed doors? Well, I think that's the only option on the table to finish the season, that it finishes behind closed doors. So, for everyone who does want the season finished, the answer to that surely is yes. And I think by putting all the games, I was reading this morning, I think they're putting the Football League on the television as well. It kind of gives people something back in terms of they're able to watch their team, they're able to watch other teams, watch football completely. But yeah, if that's what it's meant to be to finish the season, then that's what it's meant to be.
I think it'd be good. I think it'd be good just to watch a bit of football, some live football. As much as I do love watching City v QPR, you know what's going to happen. You want a bit of liveness in your life. Lucas, you looking forward to seeing football back on TV? Should they play behind closed doors?
Yeah, well, like you say, it would make isolation that little bit easier, having football back. I think going back to a point that was made earlier about sort of greed potentially with playing football behind closed doors, I think the other issue that probably hasn't been talked about as much is the legal issue, because of course we mentioned about the TV deal. So many games have to be played on the TV. Otherwise, these companies are going to be coming back to the Premier League and demanding money back. Players' contracts, which you touched on. Some players' contracts are up on the 30th of June. If the season isn't finished by the 30th of June, it goes into July, August, September, whenever it might be. What happens to those players?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
Some players, I know Willian came out and said Willian would be happy to go on the proposed month-by-month contract for the players. Would every player be happy doing that? I don't think so. Some players who aren't getting on with the club will just say, no, I want to go. With Chelsea, they've got Willian, Giroud and Pedro, all of them out of contracts on the 30th of June. If those three walk away and they have to finish the season without three, of their first team players, what happens to the integrity of the competition? People would argue, well, we didn't have our strongest team available for the last 5 games or 6 games, however many it might be. So there's big issues with from a legal point of view as well. Sponsorships, club sponsorships. A lot of sponsorships run until the 30th of June as well. perimeter advertising on a match-by-match basis. There's so many things that haven't been touched on that are an issue, and I think why the Premier League and other competitions want to be done by the 30th of June, behind closed doors or with fans.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point in the fact that, FIFA said that they can't clubs cannot legally force players to extend their contracts. So, for instance, like you said, David Silva at City, his contract's up. So, should players choose to leave, like Nick said, could be an opportunity for the academy players. But have we got a real issue in the integrity of the competition, like Lucas says there, Nick?
You have, haven't you? I mean, look, if you basically finish the season and you haven't got your best team and you fall short of, say, of European football or the playoffs in the Football League, clubs aren't and fans are going to say, oh, we didn't have our strongest team. Again, this is another thing that's going to need sorting out. They're going to have to come up with a solution to this. There's that many issues and problems ringing in the air. Like Luke said, it haven't really been touched on a lot, that they're going to need to sort out before a ball's kicked again. It could go on and on. I was reading again that the Champions League final could be in August now and late August. And,
yeah, if it was August 29th, they've penned in for it. Yeah.
They're kind of giving themselves obviously a bit of extra time. Whoever gets the Champions League final, imagine that, you've got 2 or 3 out of contracts. Yeah, hopeful again. But imagine you have got a couple of players that are out of contract and, they're not there for it, and you lose the final, fans are going to say so a lot about it, that we didn't have our strongest team. So this kind of has to be sorted out before a ball's kicked, in my opinion. Yeah. And this is where I come back to let's not put a date on. I get that obviously the 30th of June is the key date in all of this, but let's not put a date on when football is going to be back. Rather than the Football League, the Premier League, the FA all coming out and saying, we're going to try and start it here. We've seen it in other countries. Let's just kibosh that. Let's come back when it's safe to do so, and when everything's been sorted out. And then come out and say to the fans, to the clubs, this is what's going to happen. This is what's been agreed. So everybody kind of reads from the same hymn sheet.
Yeah, that's right. It's sort of like what we're doing now. We're saying things, but it's when no one's going to know. I mean, 24/7 football is the knowledge, but we that's what I mean. We just don't know. But it's interesting to speak about it from a fan's point of view, isn't it? Because Lucas, we don't know anything, and there is a lot of fake news being driven about. And it's so annoying. I don't know whether it's getting to you like it's getting to me. It's just so annoying to see so many stories and dates being thrown about when that's why I come back to, is football really that important compared to what else is going on?
Well, no, it's not. That's the simple answer. It's not as important. Health and family and everything like that, that is a lot more important than football. The stories don't get on my nerves too much. Newspapers have to fill the pages, don't they? And they need content. They're struggling like everyone else. They've got nothing to write about without any sport. So
nope.
They need anything they can to keep their website numbers up and things like that. So personally, it doesn't get to me too much. I don't take too much notice in reading it, to be honest.
So it's been interesting to talk about football and stuff like that. I think it's important that we finish on a bit of a different note, a lighter note. Newcastle are about to become Oil FC along with the Mighty Blues from Manchester. Nick, first of all, they're going to be one of the big players by the sounds of it. But sum up Mike Ashley's reign at Newcastle if you can. Because obviously we know a lot about Mike Ashley. Sports director, he was planning to keep them open during the coronavirus pandemic. Top bloke.
Yeah, unless you're Newcastle fans. I mean, come on, I was having this conversation the other day, and I'm one of those people that kind of, when this happens, when a good thing happens to a football club in terms of, they're bettering themselves and they're getting bought out by somebody who, or a consortium who are willing to put money in. I think it's great. I think it should just be an even playing field anyway. I mean, you're never going to get an even playing field. There's going to always be those clubs who have got more money than others. But I think it's great for Newcastle that obviously they're finally getting what they want. he's not really put his hand in his pocket too much and backed them. He did all right. To be fair to him, he did last summer. Obviously they spent quite a bit of money last summer and that, but it always seems to be that we're going to spend peanuts on a team, and you kind of sit there, even not as a Newcastle fan, from an outsider's point of view, and go, they've got a massive stadium, they're obviously getting money through the gate. He's worth quite a bit of money. Back if you're going to buy a football club, back it. Give the manager some money to spend if that's what they need. So to sum up his reign, I mean, Newcastle fans are going to be delighted. You see that thing on Twitter the other day, #cans, and there's going to be a party and stuff like that. And I sit there and. It's very difficult to kind of, as an outsider, to sum it up. Are Newcastle one of those clubs who are going to be challenging for the Premier League every season? Under, Mike Ashley, no. Are they going to do it now? Under the new owners, who knows? Are they going to chuck money at it? But he's not been the best owner, let's put it that way. He could have done a lot more for them in terms of putting money into the club, and some of the decisions I think have been bizarre in terms of management. You can go down it. So, good luck to Newcastle now. Hopefully the fans are happy with the new owners and it kind of can turn around for them and head in the right direction.
It's interesting, isn't it? Newcastle's literally football mad. They love Newcastle, and it's the only club in that area. Obviously, Newcastle, big city, they've got their one club, and it's so attractive for an owner, isn't it? When they get 55,000 people, 55,000 people every week, every game, supporting their team, even when they were in the Championship. And you can see it is a little bit like a sleeping giant. And it's also a bit worrying should they receive some huge backing. It's another club, Lucas, that potentially is going to be challenging City.
I don't see it as a worry personally. I think more competition the better. I think it's good for the Premier League. It's good from a spectator's point of view. Personally, I'm more than happy for them to get a bit more investment. I think it's good for Newcastle, good for the fans, like Nick says. Like I say, wish them well. I just hope that the owners that do come in, like City's having a way, come in and be a little bit responsible with the money in terms of giving back to the community, investing into facilities, investing into people as well. And I think it would be good to see that side of it as well, rather than just on the football pitch.
Yeah, I think you raised a good point in terms of City's owners really invested in the east side of Manchester, homes, really put money into the local area as well. And yeah, it's brilliant for the people in Newcastle, brilliant for Mike Ashley that he gets his payout. Hopefully we'll never hear of him again, unless he wants to buy 24/7 football.
I'm sure we will.
Pump some of that sweet dollar in. So I think that is pretty much where we end the I don't know what you can call this podcast video type thing. Thank you to you both for coming on. Really I hope this has made isolation a little bit better for you as well.
It's been enjoyable.
I can imagine it. Is that
always enjoyable talking to you, George?
I can imagine it is. Has that got Sibieski's signature on that City shirt?
I think it has up there somewhere. It's got quite a few on. I'll have to try and find it.
The boys, what a squad that was. Joey Barton.
I know. Great shirt.
It is. So yeah, this Lucas Flanagan and Nick Pratt on today. Thank you very much for joining us. Over the next few days, we'll have a video with Salford City player Josh Askew. We're going to be talking to him about what he thinks about footballers being, really having everything thrown at them in recent weeks as to whether they should pay their fair share to the government and the NHS. And also, his contract's up in the summer as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how he sees that from a player's point of view and what he's going to do about it as well. So thank you everyone for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out our website 247football.com, and I'll put these two guys' socials in the description as well. So thank you for joining us, guys.
No worries.
Thanks, George.